global. But folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. The title of the blog post is Progressives Blow in 2018 with Too Many Resources Relegated to Russia. I know a lot of people want to keep this Russia thing open, which I don't have a problem with, but I think we should all look at it in the appropriate context. So here is the blog of the week. Russia is a critical story, but it is neither the story that affects America's dinner table, health, or financial well-being. Many of us in the liberal intelligentsia love the intricacies of this story. After all, who would believe that the Republican leadership would be so soft on their patriotism that they are willing to put their heads in the sand and play dumb? It would do progressives well to remember a few realities. 52% of white women and 81% of white evangelicals voted the man who spoke about violating women, grabbing them by their genitals, imposing his physicality on them as he disregarded their humanity. The Trump voter knew that Trump had some relationship with the Russians. In fact, Fox News and Republicans were praising Vladimir Putin as a better leader than President Obama. The Trump voter saw a candidate that refused to criticize Putin, irrespective of whatever vile act he committed. Donald Trump swindled Trump University students. He stiffed vendors, employees, and much more. The Trump voter heard all of that. But a large percentage of Americans have so had it with the establishment of both parties that enough of them stayed home or voted for Trump and gave him an electoral college win. Trump never had stellar poll numbers. Never. He was never over 50%. So nobody can say, this guy can't win. Look at his numbers, because the polls means nothing these days with respect to Trump for very specific reason that we won't go into here, but is worth mentioning later. But he did not need to be popular. He just needed the votes in the right places to win. And you know what? The man got them. In watching the hyperventilation on Russia, it is clear that progressives are repeating the same mistakes of our last several elections that have decimated the Democratic bench throughout the state and the federal government. The People's Party, the Democrats, are out of step with the people. Nothing in the Russian story will improve the personal economies of working class Americans. It will not give them good health care. It will not rebuild infrastructure to provide jobs. It will not educate our children. So while working class America continue to suffer from subpar wages, while they continue to see their health care costs rise, they hear a narrative anathema to their reality. The liberal intelligentsia, the Democratic establishment, is concentrating on a subject that will do absolutely nothing to make their lives better, while at the same time giving President Charlatan, not President Trump, but President Charlatan, an excuse for his inability to accomplish anything for the working class. No one is asking that we ignore the Russian story. No, that's not the case here. That's not what we are saying. In fact, taking it off the front burner as folks build a substantive, evidence-based case would be much more effective. Think how impactful a breaking story that is well developed, where the Trump family's financial entanglements and collusion with Russia emerge. It would be much more effective than the daily Russian repetitiousness, which causes all but the political buffs to switch to the Food Channel, Discovery Channel, ESPN, or some other station break to said monotony. So, on what should the progressives' intelligentsia expend its resources? Education in a manner that is palatable to working class America. The three biggest Trump disruptive policies, Trumpcare, tax cuts, immigration, can be tied into a perfect economic narrative that tags Republicans for the charlatans that they are. Instead of spending time repeating the same old Russian story, go to every industrialized country and do reports with real people interacting with their healthcare systems, illustrating pricing and outcomes. You do that. Americans don't have to listen to Republicans tell them that socialized medicine doesn't work, or that the Canadian system or the British system or the French system or these other systems don't work. They can have real people telling stories, stuff that our own liberal intelligentsia, they're not doing. They're just talking stories and talking on TV. They're talking, rapping, saying all kinds of things, but they're not giving Americans meat to tell them, hey, it could be better. And there are places that are proven to you it could be better. That is what we should be doing. We should be out there telling the stories, bringing it to them in flesh and blood so that they can see that the stories they've been told are lies, that they don't have to any longer believe it because they have people they can contact and talk to and ask. What else can they do? Go to high-taxed industrialized countries and talk to working class people who can describe the social benefits they receive from their government. Do the mathematical analysis that shows that when Americans include their insurance costs, babysitting costs, elderly care costs, and other costs absorbed by the state, how much more efficient it is than some invisible source is capturing some unearned profit. Think about that. The shortage of farm workers created by Trump's xenophobic stance will ensure higher prices for our produce and other farm goods. That affects our pocketbook. So his xenophobia, his immigration stance affects our own personal economies. Americans need to understand that. And nobody's telling them that. What they hear continuously is the same repetitions, the same lies, that because they hear it so much, it becomes a reality they believe is true. We don't have to go there, people. Our supposed progressive and liberal intelligentsia, our negligent parties should be doing these things. These are things that need to be done. It's not about your base only. It's about growing your base. It's about growing your base, who really should be just about the entire middle class and poor, the vast majority of the country. But to do it, you have to work it. Most of us in the progressive intelligentsia know there is a fundamental difference between Republicans and Democrats who truly believe in the Democratic platform. And the Democratic platform is a work of art. If you get a chance, read it. Unfortunately, rarely do the Democratic Party follow its own platform. The problem is that we are governed within a thin center that minimizes the differences, where many in the working class see a convergence into the establishment of little distinction. Many of us are hesitant to engage those who chose Trump because we simply know how flawed they are. A few weeks ago, I wrote the following I hope more would heed. Many Americans are racist, some are homophobes, too many are sexist, and growing number are xenophobic. Misogyny still reigns. Americans are humans with all the frailty humanity brings. We will not fix these defects within our lifetime. So quit it. Quit thinking that somehow we are going to have to work on those problems first, and then we can work on people's personal economies, and then we can work on people's jobs. And it's not going to happen that way. We work on what we can work on now. Nobody's asking for anybody to love them. Nobody's asking to be somebody's friend by force. We don't need that. There are enough people and there are enough loved ones to worry about thyself and those people within your own sphere. But there are commonalities that a thread runs through us all, that we can work together irrespective of these issues. We can break the backs of the Republicans by avoiding an unachievable purity, by working on economic, health, and other commonalities, while refusing to allow our human defects from stopping all progress. It can be done. Here is an aside that liberals should note. I've been to many Netroots conferences, the biggest liberal gathering of bloggers throughout this country, or in fact, the biggest liberal bloggers in the world. We meet every year. In fact, we're going to be meeting in Atlanta in August. And I've been to a couple Tea Party conferences as well. This black Caribbean Latino with a Panamanian accent was treated better at a Tea Party conference than at a Netroots conference when outside of my Daily Coast clique. In fact, I wrote about one shocking experience at Netroots Nation 2015 that is worth a read. Look, of course the Tea Party was trying to make a point with me. Of course they were using me. Of course they wanted to show me that they're not who people like me write about them, about who they are. Yes, they want me to believe that. And they treated me as such. But my point is, that is exactly my point. We can suppress our bad urges when we want to accomplish a common goal. And like I said, we're not looking for other people to love us. We're not looking for other people to like us or to be their friends or to have dinner with. We want to make sure all our personal economies can do better, because if our personal economies are doing fine and we can live a happy life, who cares who likes you or don't like you, or who cares about those issues? Social justice issues have an interesting scenario that is generally magnified by economic pain. We ought to be smart. We ought to think about these things. Liberals will do well to read the Politico piece titled "Why Liberals Aren't as Tolerant as They Think," which may open the eyes of those willing to self-examine. I love to self-examine. When I screw up, I love to come out and say, hey guys, guess what? I screwed up. You know why? It helps you. It is liberating. It's something we work on within our own local progressive groups that all of us should try or an attempt to practice. If progressives don't change our game now, we would have squandered the opportunity to take our House and the Senate in 2018 and the presidency in 2020. Republicans care less about losing Trump than we do. Man, they'll throw Trump under the bus so darn fast. It ain't funny. As soon as they realize it's a real sinking ship, they'll dump Trump in a minute. Trump is not really one of them. Trump just has a base that they want. But they don't care about Trump. But we sure do. We hate him so much. We want to invest everything to bring him down, and in the process forgetting about the working class American. Forgetting about your brothers and your sisters who, whether Trump falls on his face or not, will still endure the pain that they're enduring right now. They will be happy with President Pence and the semblance of a Republican ultra-conservative rebirth. And so far, they can sell a bad product much better than we are able to sell a good product. Folks,